Hey guys, so I'm in the middle of working on something big right now. So I thought I'd take a minute, just kind of, pause for a moment with this week's video and just kind of walk you through some of the things that I've, learned along the way. All right, so here's kind of the thing. I started this, side project with something I wanted to just kind of learn or a problem I wanted to solve, which was, building an embedded analytics platform. Um, Started with, hey, how can I embed Power BI? How can I enhance that, with comments and threads and make it more interactive? How can you get all the quality of life stuff there with like frequently asked question, deep links that, automatically apply filters to make answering all these questions easier, editing those dashboards, exporting them, having even just like a dynamic, report builder, right? Where, you can come in and, you know, pick any kind of export that you want, whatever fields you want, whatever order, logic, things like that. And these were all, kind of standard enterprise analytics features that I kind of seen out there or that I wanted to add. Um, but as I kind of started working through that, one thing would lead to another. And for example, like the Warp Mind Council just, I was like, okay, we have everything for, standard stuff that's out there. What's next? Or what can AI come up with for like prescriptive analytics or kind of like future, you know, types of things that, you could do once maybe your scalable conform data models are there and some of those other things. So, um, but as I kind of went through that, I realized that there was a bigger wedge and a bigger idea that I wanted to tackle. And this was going to, kind of require a different way to go about it. So I was always using planning within Cursor, to plan out, key features and stuff like that. But when you get to a point where you're trying to build something kind of novel or new, or maybe something that's not out there, then that's where things, they get a little interesting. And so what I wanted to point out for those of you that might be doing something like that, or just any of these projects in general, um, one of the biggest things that I kind of learned through it was everybody wants to kind of dive in and start, coding with AI, but it's, depending on what you're working on, right? If it's not just a basic CRUD app, equally important is spending just as much time on the AI planning. Um, and, then that could be, spending several days having multiple AIs kind of review it, go through it, depending on what you're trying to do. So, for those of you that haven't really looked at the planning side as much of it, I would highly recommend that. And I also wouldn't have just one AI plan it for you. I would vet it against several different ones. And then also what's super important in this is you got to add your own questions, right? Under your own understanding or domain experience or knowledge that you have with whatever you're working on. You got to be in there as well and having your input as well. That's super important. And then, AI can accelerate that for you. But it's almost like if you can kind of get the plan right, then the AI coding can take care of itself. I mean, that obviously not going to be true for all cases, but um, just try it out. Maybe if you're having issues on some of the more novel or more complex things you're working at, to really spend a lot of time on that planning sequence. So I wanted to call out that what's kind of worked really well for me is one, building an app using Cursor. So that's kind of the execution engine. But also outside of Cursor using Copilot as an AI that I can bounce ideas off of, like as a strategist, architect, pressure test. I would find that in many times where was working on a lot of high volume incremental slices, sometimes the agents could potentially have an issue kind of pulling back, seeing the big picture, and you can always pull up another agent chain to do that. But I found that Copilot in particular has been super helpful for that, and also because it remembers my history, which is super important. So like the lifetime of the project and stuff like that, which some of your Cursor agents may or may not have. So it's always able to kind of give me, some valuable things to kind of check working through it. So if you have, for those of you who haven't tried that yet, I would check it out. Maybe not to necessarily have Copilot code specifically for you, leave that to Cursor, but just as kind of an AI architect or kind of partner that you can kind of throw ideas off of and kind of see what may or may not work. Um, the other thing to just kind of call out is for those of you that are just like, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to get started. I mean that's it's just got to do it, right? Just get in there, get started, figure out what problem you want to solve, and through that process, new stuff will show up. I didn't necessarily set out or have an idea to kind of work on what I'm doing right now. It just kind of came to fruition after, working on different features. Like I had an idea of what I wanted to start with, and I built all that out. But it was kind of through that a bigger picture kind of emerged. But I wouldn't have seen that had I just not got started. And by the way, this is not something that happens overnight. I mean, it could be several months into a project, where these things might be revealed, but you're not going to get there if you don't get started. And everything else is a path to help you get there. So I would recommend that if there's something you want to do, now's the time, right? Just go do it. Um, let's see. Yeah, just go ahead and build it. Uh, Feedback, iteration, planning. Yeah, that'll bring the idea to life. And like I said before, you don't need to have that full upfront idea. Just have a problem that you want to solve, go do that, get some feedback, and then as you get that feedback and you iterate, the bigger vision or bigger ideas will emerge from that. And as I mentioned before, kind of here lower on my notes, that it's important for you to kind of understand that you're the strategist. So AI is going to help you, execute. It's also going to help you plan, bounce ideas off of it. But there's been several times, this is not like a hands-off vibe coding, scenario. You've got to get in there. You've got to make key decisions. You've got to, even if you're not technically in the details of all the code, you need to understand kind of what's happening, at least at a medium to high level. Because I know even with the project I've been working on, I've had to get in there and say, oh, okay, well, wait a minute, well, what about this, or what about that, or should we do this? And AI is like, oh, yep, that's a good idea, or hey, nope, we shouldn't do that because it's a best practice and we need to do it this way. But thanks for bringing it up, kind of stuff. So don't want to be completely hands off. You gotta get in there and and hopefully have some kind of like domain expertise and at least part of what you're building. But even if you don't, again, it has all the expertise you need. I've learned the most important thing is you just got to ask the right questions. If you're not asking the right questions, or asking, what are edge cases or things like that, AI may or may not catch it. So super valuable, still having you in the loop. And yeah, kind of, the note here, AI amplifies your thinking, but you set the direction and judgment. So that's why it's important that you still kind of understand what's happening. So for next steps, once I've got the system that I'm working on kind of fully validated, I'll do a full walkthrough on it. But right now, I just wanted to kind of share the philosophy of, what's been working for me, how I've kind of been operating. That's been helpful for those of you that, are out there building too. Love to hear what's working for you in the comments below. Just drop a note like, hey, what kind of setup are you using? Are you just using Cursor or just using Claude, Code Pro, or some other system to build, or using Copilot at all? Just be kind of curious to see how those are working. Are you spending a lot of time on planning, or are you just having AI go in there and just kind of code right away? I'd be kind of curious. And cool. And just the last thing I'll add is, don't feel like you got to solve this massive problem or anything like right out the gate. Just start small. Pick a small thing that you want to tackle. Get in there and start doing it. Figure out how to kind of work with AI. There's a lot of different stuff out there, a lot of different ways to do it. The beauty I found though is just ask AI. It's right there. Like, hey, what's the best way to work with you? Should I use a premium agent as an orchestrator? And you give me auto agent prompts. For those of you that are working in Cursor, or hey, is there some other method, or just ask it. Or like it has. I've found that many times it pretty much has all the answers, but I'm not asking the right questions. So that's really the key. And just kind of doing that'll make those big ideas come alive. So cool. Just want to give everyone here kind of a heads up, and stay tuned. More to come.